Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast where a behavioral scientist examines what it's like to live a humorous life. Glimpse into the lives of the funniest people in entertainment, business, and science as your host, Dr. Peter McGraw, explores their habits, motivations, and secrets to success. Get ready to fire up your brain and your funny bone. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast that looks at the lives of funny people. I'm Peter McGraw. Today's guest is Kendall Carrol. Kendall started a career as a high school theater teacher in small-town West Texas. She's made her way to the MBA program at the University of Colorado Boulder, and while in the program, she's focused on marketing, serves as the MBA Association president, and most importantly, is my teaching assistant. She's recently accepted a job as a product marketing manager at NetApp. Welcome, Kendall.
Hey.
So this is you are the second funny student that I have interviewed. I interviewed one of my students from the London Business School Dubai program. And so no pressure to see if I'm going to keep doing this every semester.
Okay.
So if you weren't working as a teacher or in marketing, what would you be doing with your life?
Well, what I've been thinking about doing lately
I've already
planned this. It's like my midlife crisis plan is I want to buy an RV and I want to drive around the world and I want to create a travel blog and I'll do it for a year. And then if the blog takes off, then I'll just do that forever. And it'll have good pictures of my dog.
I see.
And what I'm seeing and be writing about all the different experiences. I think that's my
fallback plan.
Yeah.
Is this like one of those, what are those fancy silver
Airstreams?
Is it an Airstream you're going to have, or are you going to have like a old school Winnebago kind of thing?
I think it depends on the budget, how much money I have at that point. The Airstream would be nice, but in my dreams, They're driving a cheap Winnebago.
I see.
Yeah.
So you clearly are not following the lessons from my marketing class as you consider this life, are you?
What?
Because you have not done a competitive analysis.
No. Well, I just think that I'm better, right? I think that my unique flair and flavor for the travel blog lifestyle would be interesting.
All right, that's good. So, to your credit, you do have some flair.
Yeah.
Right? So your background's in theater.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that for a little bit. So how did you get into theater and how did you become a theater teacher and why did you want to stop being a theater teacher?
Yeah. So when I was little, my parents, I always put on plays, at Christmas and things like that.
For the family?
For the family.
Okay.
I'd be at the fireplace directing my cousins in some sort of event. Saw Pippi Longstockings at Casa Manana in Fort Worth. And that incited or made my interest grow.
How old were you?
Second grade.
What's that? That's 7?
7.
Okay.
Yeah. Didn't go to a school that really had theater because I was homeschooled for a little while in middle school. And then in high school, got really involved with that. And I actually was part of probably the shittiest theater program in West Texas. One thing that has always been my pet peeve about theater people is that people think we're really weird. Uh-huh. And we are, but not in the not always in the goth emo kid sort of way. And so I felt like that was what my West Texas town was.
You were weird but not cool.
I was weird, not cool, but I didn't really care. But I was probably the only kid in theater who cared about grades in school and things like that. Mm-hmm. It was most of the people who did it in high school were doing it to escape, I think.
So tell me, the profile of the theater kid is a sort of misfit of sorts?
Yeah, I think it's they can't do anything else, so they're in theater. They're really dark and moody and want to brood. They want to only do monologues that are about killing themselves. That's really what it felt like. And I was I want to trip and fall and
You want to be comedic and big, and you want to be like Pippi Longstocking.
Yeah, I wanted to be just like looked at and be the center of attention mostly, and so did that in high school. Thought I really wanted to teach, looking back, I think that some of that is probably because it's just like what women that I saw who worked did. They were teachers. So decided that theater, since it was my favorite subject, that I'd focus on teaching theater.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah. So went to college, realized I really wasn't as good as everyone else.
You went to college for theater.
I went to college for theater, but like theater education.
Where was this?
Well, the first year I went to Abilene Christian University, and that was terrible. You
really are not in Kansas anymore.
I am not. So Abilene Christian was like, you had to go to chapel 4 times a week on average a semester to not get kicked out of the school.
I see.
And I just was like, no. So when I went to West Texas A&M, I transferred after my freshman year, stayed in theater, decided to do still theater education, and started teaching right at like 22. Mm-hmm. And I really liked teaching.
And what grade were you teaching?
High school.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like 10 through 12. I came in the middle of the year after a teacher had been fired.
What does it take to get fired as a theater teacher in West Texas?
Well, so she'd been there for years and had been like really successful. She'd gone to state in one act play multiple times. But there was this kid that she was really picking on who was gay. And she was like saying things to him or to his classmates like, oh, Joe's not really getting the part. So I need you guys to be mean to him because he's gay so that he'll like understand what it's like to be ostracized in society like he needs to be in this play. And so that was like
that is true. What is that called? That's what's that
the
called?
Method. Yeah.
That's the method, right?
Yeah.
Method acting.
Trying to be
method directing.
Directing with 17-year-olds who like have their own emotions and shit. And she also was accused of like stealing money and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they built a pretty strong case.
They built a strong case. Yeah. And then he was like, my principal was like, I'm going to get this bright-eyed 22-year-old and she's going to try to do something.
And how did it go?
Well, at first it was weird because I didn't anticipate this, but the age gap was just too little.
Narrow. Oh, I can see that.
Yeah. And the students that first semester were like either really pissed that the teacher got fired or just seniors and just wanting to be done. So that was kind of rough. But the following year went really well.
Do you get to pick the plays and stuff?
Mm-hmm, that was fun. Yeah.
What kind of plays did you pick?
So my favorite play that we did was called, oh my gosh. It was called Sweet Nothings in Your Ear. And it was all in ASL. And so it was about a family.
ASL is
American Sign Language. Yeah. Okay. So there was like a family and their son was deaf and the mom was deaf and the father was not. And so they were having to decide whether to get him a cochlear implant or not. And so it was cool because the main actors were signing. And then behind them, I had a secondary cast really in black giving us the language.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really cool. It was a really beautiful play.
That's really great for someone with my kind of face. You just put them in the darkness, but I've got a good voice.
You got a good voice. Yeah.
Great for that.
You don't need to move.
My only chance. I'm no John Hamm looking guy, so just put me in the darkness and let me talk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I'm not going to argue that. Yeah. The more attractive actors in the front.
Put them up front, of course. Yeah. You put them up front.
So that was one that I loved doing, but I also loved the musicals a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so what did you, besides like because age difference will go away, so that's a temporary problem.
Yeah.
Why make the change? This is a big change, right? To leave Texas, come to Colorado, go into an MBA program.
Yeah.
Well, why? How?
Well, I think first I just was working a ton. So I was probably working 70 hours a week or 65.
I'm sure I've said this before on the pod. These teaching gigs, these high school, junior high, elementary school teaching jobs, I think they used to be really sweet jobs.
Yeah.
I think that they are so incredibly hard nowadays. The expectations, all the state and county district.
Yeah.
The admin, testing, the access the parents have, the emailing, the like, I think it's and they're not well compensated.
Right.
So it's not, like, it's fine to work a hard job and be well compensated for it and find it super rewarding. The problem, I think, is these again, high school, middle school, elementary school. I have a friend who works in elementary school. I just marvel at what she's asked to do and how much is going on.
I think I would add, especially with an extracurricular. So if you're a coach, if you're a band, if you're theater, then
now it's weekends, evenings, etc.
Yeah, you're doing it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just was working a lot, and like you said, you get the email Saturday morning after you put the cast list up. That's like, why didn't so and so get? And that just killed me.
I
think now I'd handle it.
Kendall, I understand because I get those emails after I submit grades.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, you weren't the best.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So, you spend a lot of time covering your ass and filming auditions and making sure you have another teacher in. And so that was part of it. I think the other part, though, for me was really, I just could see that the next 30 years looked the same and that it was never really going to be anything different. It was going to be 4 shows a year. I was going to be there. My salary wasn't going to change. And that just looked gross.
So I want to ask you about this because my personal experience, so I've been to West Texas.
Yeah.
I had a colleague, a very good friend who worked at Texas Tech for many years, and I visited him in Lubbock a few times, actually, for one point, an extended period of time. And so I got a little flavor for West Texas. We went to a Friday Night Lights. I said, I want to go to a Friday Night Lights game.
Yeah.
And I even made him and his wife tailgate beforehand so we could get like the full experience. By the way, we were the only people tailgating in this game. Yeah. But I made friends with all the people in the stands and I was asking about all the surrounding, who are the rivalries and you'll be able to, it's amazing. There's these small towns in West Texas that are named after the landscape.
Yeah.
Right? So there's Levelland.
Plainview.
I can't remember. It was like Browntown or whatever, or something like Brownsville or some, right? Is that right? Yeah.
Brownsville's in South Texas.
Okay,
but
fair enough.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? These kinds of things. Now, what I think was really fascinating, I'll get back to my why I digressed, but the first thing is I could see how you could, by the way, Lubbock was a nice place.
Yeah.
But I could see how you say, well, there's a big world out there. I want to see it. What I thought was really striking about this particular game that we went to was you could start to see the cracks in this sort of football-focused world. And the major crack was the band was enormous.
Yeah.
There were more people in the band than there were on the football team.
Yeah.
And you start thinking, there's a lot of kids out there who are not set up for the kind of traditional, sports-focused world. And I kind of felt bad for those. I mean, at least they had band.
Yeah.
I think those kids were better off in the band than trying to play football. You know what I mean?
Especially with the concussion stuff coming out now. Yeah.
No doubt. Kind of thing. So that idea of wanting to get out, I had this experience living in New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey, had gone to college in New Jersey, and felt fortunate that I had lived in New Jersey. It's a diverse place.
Yeah.
It has access to things culturally that I probably wouldn't have gotten because my family wasn't terribly cultural. But I just always felt like there was a big world out there, and I was afraid that I was going to become a Jerseyan for life kind of thing. And so I made that. I worked hard to make that happen and made myself really uncomfortable making that happen. But I managed to do it. But why an MBA then?
Well, I think I think what I realized is that a lot of what I was doing, being a high school theater teacher, was managing a business. You know, I had 100 people that I worked with, students, faculty, parents, managing the budget, marketing our shows, making sure that people came, getting the political buy-in from people in the school. And I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this.
I see.
I think this is what I should do. Because it was either that or law school. And I have a family of lawyers. And I was
and
like,
you saw how miserable they are.
They're miserable. They're miserable. And they make more money than I'm going to make coming out, but they're miserable. And I actually took a class at the law school in the fall, and it was great. But I saw a little bit of what law was like, and I'm glad I didn't go that route.
Yeah, you know, it's just sad because I think like you need lawyers because you need a professional who's going to think through the worst case.
Sure.
And so lawyers actually, I think, can provide a tremendous amount of value.
Sure.
The tough thing is what it can do to your perspective on the world.
And it's just so tedious. It's like the idea of reading these documents and then analyzing what the definition of is. I mean, not to quote Bill Clinton, but what the definition of is. Like, I feel like that popped up a little bit in this class. And I was like,
wasn't your cup of tea.
I hate that.
You do have a knack for marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so this was obviously on display for my class. So for my class, for the listener, I think one of the signature elements of my class is I have the students do a marketing pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in their first semester. And at the time, they're taking mostly quantitative classes. They're like basically getting like mathed to death, except for my class and then a social responsibility class for the most part. And so it's sort of their first real touch of not how to think about creating a business or think about creating value for consumers and so on. And so to turn up the challenge of this marketing pitch, I invite very accomplished people from the community, marketing professionals from the community to judge. Right. And so, and I think as a result, students really bring, I wouldn't say this, the best groups really bring it, even more so than they would if it was just me doing the judging.
Yeah.
So the last time that I did this, well, with you, so it was in your first year, this was about a year and a quarter ago or something like that. Your team had scored the highest score in the class, was like every single one of the evaluators gave you a high score. I agreed with those scores, even though I don't do the evaluating and so on. And so tell the audience what product you chose and how you folks decided to present it. And I have a hunch that you were heavily involved in the presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Thing,
yeah.
Directing it and so on.
Yeah, I was. So really how I started was thinking about jobs to be done. I was like, what are jobs that I have in my life that suck? And I was talking to a girlfriend and she was talking about dating. And she was like, it sucks when I get drunk and I sleep with him too fast. And then I thought.
So as an aside, like the best pitches always start with a problem.
Yeah.
They always start with, whatever it is. I've got mice. The classic mouse. If you're going to pitch a mousetrap, you got to talk about mice and the problems that mice cause. Okay. So
I was like, clearly it's a problem. I mean, not that I judge anyone who has sex, but she regretted doing it. Yeah. So I came up with this idea. Well, what if you were wearing something so embarrassing underneath that you would never take your clothes off? And so I was like, period panties. And what was funny is I came up with the idea and I almost didn't pitch it to my group because I was like, there's 3 guys in here. I don't know. But they all loved it. And so they went along with it immediately. So when we pitched, I designed the product. I made them.
And you brought a sample of the product.
I brought a sample.
And put it on the table in front of the evaluator.
Yeah. So at the beginning, we were like, here's the problem. You go boy meets girl. You go on a date. You may not know. And then you look in the mirror. You remember that you've got on the period panties. And it's good.
So the nice thing about this idea is that there's also these stories of women. This is really a Ulysses problem.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, right?
Beginning of time.
It's since the beginning. How is it that you're making a prediction about your future self and recognizing that your present self and your future self are not going to have the same motives, right?
Yeah.
So the person who puts the alarm, when they go to bed at night, they put the alarm on the other side of the room, is recognizing that you have that in your self-control in the future won't be as good.
Sure.
And so the story of this is, I've heard stories of women who will purposely not shave.
Right. I've heard of wearing Spanx.
Yeah. Yes. These different ways that you might know that a different person in the future is going to be making those decisions, and so you're going to handicap that person.
Exactly. So, we pitched it. We brought in 2 samples, put them on the desk, brought in champagne because now you can celebrate because you don't have to worry about that anymore. And I had a lot of fun.
If I remember correctly, you had like a whole skit, like a whole Tinder.
Well, we created a commercial. We created a video. Yeah. So I filmed a video. I directed it. Yes. Of the guy and girl on the date and, their interaction, and they get to go home and not worry. She doesn't have to worry about, giving it up too soon or, whatever. Yes, right. So that was really fun. And it was a big risk. It was. And I didn't know how it would go over. But it went over well.
That's the thing about risks.
Yeah.
Right. Is that, that they have big upside and they have big downside. Like, there's, that's, and so it was nice to see it. It was nice to see that it was rewarded because it was well executed.
Yeah. I think the understanding of the audience helped me there to be like, okay, what are their concerns? How are they going to be feeling during this? How do I make sure that there's enough business here to make sure that they're not dismissing it as students having a joke and having a laugh, but still a serious presentation. So that was something I tried to carry through the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. In terms of, of course, good marketing, you're looking at, so what's the competition, right? Why might people buy this? And so you have this sort of twofold reason. One is it is a joke to buy people also, right? So that kind of thing. And then where are you going to sell it? At what price are you going to sell it? And, and can you make this? Yeah. Can you actually make a business out of this kind of
PG panties?
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So you're going to be a product marketing manager.
Yeah.
So what does a product marketing manager do?
Well, I didn't know before I started. So basically in large B2B tech companies,
which NetApp
is, or not even in large, but in just B2B tech companies, there's an internal sales team. And so a lot of what a product marketing manager does is translating that value that the engineers are giving us and product management's giving us that the product creates into content for sales and content for our end customer as well. But so how do we make this widget or this new launch upgrade clear to someone who maybe doesn't have that high level of technical understanding, or really specific for the engineer who's on the buying end who does have a very strong sense of understanding? Okay. So some segmented marketing communications largely.
Can you say all this stuff without it sounding like jargon?
Okay, let me try again. So basically we release products on a yearly cadence, and and those products have really complicated features, and I have to create something that can distill the value of something really technical in a short, concise, digestible, and here's why you want it.
I see.
And I give that to both sales, and then I do it for external audiences as well.
Okay. And so, are you working with the product manager? Is that your boss?
No, they're a adjacent organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. I ask that because I think those product manager roles are really fascinating.
Yeah, really interesting.
I think they're among the most interesting jobs in tech.
Yeah.
These days, because it truly is a jack of all trades kind of position. Because of all the different people you're working with, including people like you.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that could be where maybe I eventually go. Okay. I'm not sure. So product management and product marketing work really close together. Many people on my team have been product managers before. And so that could be the way. They're normally pretty technical.
Yes. Yeah. Usually these are people.
Yeah.
I think in that world, like engineers and computer science types usually thrive in those positions if they have the EQ to go along with it. It's
like an engineer with an MBA most of the time. It's a
tough job to fill, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the secret to distilling these super technical things to these two different audiences, to both like sales and marketing people and to end users or deciders, I guess it would be at other businesses?
Well, I think the first thing is that me not having a technical background actually made it a lot easier at first. Is that I was like, I don't know what that means, but this is the general vibe I'm getting, so I'm going to write about that. Mm-hmm. And that at first, connecting to more of an emotional level, which business buyers really care about, I think that helped.
You know, as a side about that emotional thing, I don't know if you recall this, but I teach this just briefly when I teach branding, is we have a tendency to think about emotional brands, Nike and Coca-Cola and all this kind of stuff. But really the most emotional brands are business-to-business brands, as you said, B2B, right? Like FedEx and Cisco, SAP, and so on. And the reason for that, and I can imagine a listener going, "What's Cisco? I don't really Qualcomm. Sure. What are these?
Yeah,
I don't know
heard
these
of
companies."
Them. Yeah.
But if you work in a business that you hire these companies and they are essential for your success, you have this strong emotional connection. So no, FedEx is not sexy by any means.
Yeah.
But its effect on your success makes it emotional.
Yep.
It's a really counterintuitive finding, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're really, or what I'm really trying to focus on is, okay, what's the value that makes this DevOps engineer be able to sleep at night that we as NetApp can provide? And what
does NetApp provide?
We're like cloud infrastructure and on-premise infrastructure.
So I think this is important because, so you know me, I have a bunch of sayings in my class. Do you remember any of the sayings I like to have in my class?
What's the Ricky Bobby one?
If you're not first,
you're last.
That's right. Okay.
Business is hard. Business is hard. Business is hard.
I have a new one.
You have a new one. Okay.
I have a new one, which is that every company's a tech company.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that's something that the sooner aspiring business entrepreneurs recognize. And so as a result, if every company is a tech company, there's a chance that they need to store data.
Yeah.
And people no longer store data in a server on their premise. They store it somewhere.
Sure.
In many places out there in the world, et cetera.
And some companies are putting some of it on premise and some of it in the cloud. And, there's all sorts of different variations.
There's a bunch of solutions that are out
there.
And NetApp is one of those solutions.
Yeah.
And your competitors are?
Dell, VMware, Nutanix, HP, Cisco, kind of.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Not sexy, but emotional.
Not sexy. Yeah.
Important. It's fascinating, I think it's super fascinating.
I think that's, what I've learned is that I think if you allow something to be fascinating, it can be. And I would have never thought this was interesting. And then when I kind of leaned in and was like, okay, let's dive in and learn about cloud infrastructure. Now I think it's fascinating.
So I thank you for saying that, because I constantly try to convince students to go into boring, into totally boring industries. And the reason is that the more boring the industry, the probably more important it is in a sense. They tend to be, I think those two things tend to be mildly positively correlated. The other one is that there's less competition, right? So everybody wants to be in sports marketing, and they want to work for Vail, and they want to do all the stuff. And so now you have lots of competition. Now you're going to get paid less to do the same job, and so on. The other thing is that what I think a lot of people don't realize is that if you allow yourself to learn about these things, that this work becomes engaging. Yeah. Because it's still challenging work. And so...
And you might get paid more.
You can get paid more. You're creating more value. Yeah. And no, it's not sexy, but it's important. And, there really is this notion of, Adam Grant has this podcast and like the kind of mission is like, you have to work, so you might as well enjoy it. And I like that idea that you might as well find a way to do this beyond, of course the paycheck matters. Yeah. There's no doubt, all things equal, you should work for more money. But the idea that you can get up and do the work and be engaged. Look, it's never going to be, an afternoon in the office is never going to be as good as a massage and a nap. but it can be engaging in the way that putting on a play can be engaging. Sure. Or that an artistic pursuit can be engaging if you can manage to find the right position, the right boss, the right place. Sure. That allows you to use those muscles.
Yeah, and I'm struggling with that still a little bit. I think at the beginning of the MBA program, I was ready to go all business. And now I'm like, I'm not doing good directly. So I'm struggling with that idea.
So when you were a teacher, the thing about being a teacher, and especially being a theater teacher, is you made something that brought joy, to an audience and to the performers.
And you're developing relationships. I think that really is the piece that I miss.
I see.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't think I'm going to go back to teaching, but I'm going to have to figure out a way to get that out of business or, in my personal life.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. So going back to the sports marketing example, people are like, "But Pete, I just love sports." I'm like, go get a marketing job for a pharmaceutical company and buy season tickets to the Nuggets. Yeah. Right. So you don't have to give up this thing, and actually you can maintain the joy that it gives. So that's interesting, knowing that you have a particular skill set and there's something that you like to do that you might have to find it. Either in your work or elsewhere. Yeah. As a result of that. So you're probably the worst person to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Kendall, do you have a rival, frenemy, or even an enemy?
Oh, God.
She's like looking up to the left.
I don't know if I do. Well, I think the biggest problem is I like to be the best. So anytime someone is better than me, then I keep thinking, well, why? I got to be better on that. If it's something that I care about.
Sure, of course.
I don't need to be the best in finance. But if I feel like it's a strong suit for me, I don't like to see someone else doing better than that. Yeah, but I can't think of a specific person.
That's interesting because that seems like more like a rival than an enemy.
Yeah, it's more of a motivator than it is someone I hate.
Yeah. I asked this question because I think it's a question. It's a little bit of a question about motivation. Business. It's interesting because business is filled with rivals and enemies. It's almost impossible to be successful in business for very long without that happening. Yeah, and the idea of paying attention to your competition is actually useful in business. What I'm unsure about is how useful is it beyond. Yeah. So the reason I started asking this question is because of comedy, because of comics. So this is related to shtick. Yeah. So for the listener, I'm working on a new project called Shtick to Business. So these are lessons from the Masters of Comedy. And Kendall was so desperate for an independent study.
So desperate.
That I said, if you want to help me with this, I will advise your independent study, but I will not advise any other independent study besides this one. And you're like, well, I guess I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I think of that as mutually beneficial.
I think it was.
So we've been talking a lot about these things. We're going to actually, after we finish this, we're going to have a real meeting about it. So the idea of, in comedy, there is truly a pecking order of sorts, like you've got your brand new rookie comics. Mm-hmm. You've got, your people who are kind of opening acts, and you have your headliners. And of course, if you're a rookie, you want to become an opening act. And if you're opening act, you want to become a headliner. And if you're a headliner, you want to, I don't know,
go on a world tour or whatever.
You want to do theaters and so on. You have, all this kind of stuff. And so what happens is and the feedback is very clear, right? So like you perform and you're getting laughs or you're not getting laughs, and you know how big the laughs are and so on. And so that kind of competition in a sense. And of course, if you're an opening act, you just want to crush it.
Yeah.
Right? You want people to go, well, the headliner was fine, but that guy opened the act. Yeah. Wow, he's something else, huh? I want to see him next time. And so I think that is good. Like, it's hard to get good at things. And so having a little bit of that, I want to be in that spot. I want that headlining spot.
Well,
can help. And what I find is difficult is I don't know how much people don't use this or don't want to talk about it, because I've been asking this question for a while and I'm about to give up on it because I rarely get a great story.
I mean, I used to have that in theater, and I think that's actually why I was like, I don't really like this.
Okay.
It's because you were always going into an audition, and then you do it one way, and then you see the girl go up and do it, and she's prettier than you, or she has a better, read, and you're just like, fuck. And so it's just like this whole, and I did speech and debate, and you're like, oh, I don't want, if Mitchell Harris, oh God, I remember that name. If Mitchell Harris is here, I want to beat him. But that level of kind of, to me, it felt so toxic for me that I don't like to do that anymore.
I agree. And it's interesting you say this because I used to be like that.
Yeah.
I used to be the, so this happens in sports.
Yeah.
A lot, right? Because you're competing against someone and that person has a face and so on, and a name and so on. And that kind of motivation works. Mm-hmm. I think the word toxic is a good word, because the worry, of course, is that you poison yourself in order to motivate yourself. And I've always thought I've given it up, and I did so reluctantly because I thought I'd lose an edge. Because the I'll show you, right? Of course, the biggest enemy is I'll show you the world.
Yeah.
But no one cares.
I know.
That's one of the big things is no one ever goes, Kendall, I really didn't think you could pull this MBA off.
Sure.
I was just wrong about that.
And if they did, that sounds like an awful person,
So no one ever congratulates you on overcoming the thing that they thought you couldn't do, you know? And so you give that person a ton of power. Mm-hmm. You never get the true benefit of it. And the real benefit that you do get is the accomplishment. And then the question is there other ways to accomplish it?
Yeah.
And I do think that the other way to accomplish it, and I think this is true for comedy too, is to just simply work on your craft. Mm-hmm. Is to have good habits and work on your craft. And if you can do that, you don't need that extra motivation, because you're going to get most of the way there.
Yeah, and then you can have a community.
Yeah, it's true. I do like that. I mean, in grad school, I had a saying which was cooperate and graduate.
Yeah.
These folks are competitors in some mild kind of way, but for the most part, we're going to be better off if we all work together to try to make it. We're all going to be better as a result of that thing.
Yeah.
So So you made this big move. You've had success here. You're on the verge. You're just a few weeks away from graduating. When you think about important people in your life who have helped you succeed, does anyone come to mind? Do you have a strategy for cultivating those kinds of relationships? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, so recently through the school, I have a mentor through the school. And there have been a few times since I've worked with her where I wasn't going to go for something because I thought it would make me too busy. And she kept telling me, no, you need to. Or these different moments where I was uncomfortable. And so I realized through working with her that tendency, and also come to really value mentorship in general.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a good mentor.
Yeah, she's really good.
Mm-hmm. What's her name?
Cindy O'Keefe. She's a VP of marketing at Gorilla Logic.
Nice.
But then, I think your family too and all that. But
well, don't say it like that. So tell me, because I'll tell you this, I didn't have that.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So, that's not exactly true. My mom got me to maintain a focus on college.
Yeah.
And so that was good, and so, but once I went off to college, I was like 100% on my own.
Yeah.
And so I had always had friends that I could rely on, but I never, so when you say, oh, well, of course, family is, I don't think that's always the case.
Yeah. They haven't been financially supporting me, but I think my mom has just always been like, you can do whatever you want to do, and has never put any doubts about my abilities. Nice. And so I think from very early on, I've just been like, I never question whether or not I can do something. Okay. And so I think that has helped me. Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of people in my life with graduate degrees in my family. So I think that's really helpful too.
I think having those models, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, my husband actually finished his graduate degree the year before I started mine. So I think supporting him through his, knowing that I'd have the support in this one, really made me be able to dive in for 2 years and not do it halfway.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I'm sure he's happy you're graduating.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm going to Hawaii for 2 weeks after graduation.
That's good.
I'm really excited.
Is he in, what is his training?
His master's in economics. Okay. And he works in analytics for a tech company.
I see. Oh, okay. So you guys are going to have sort of parallel lives. Interesting.
Yeah. Kind of weird, but yeah.
Yeah.
With both an artistic love. So he loves to play instruments and loves the ukulele, which is part of the reason we're going to Hawaii. Not like Tiny Tim though, but
yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. I kind of fell in love with art late in life.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I sort of lament, I was a sports guy, an athlete, which I'm glad I was an athlete. I still benefit from that, fitness wise.
Sure.
And that's now a lifelong skill that I'll always have. But I think that I wish, especially for men, I wish there were more encouragement and outlets for artistic endeavors.
Yeah.
I just think that that's in terms of living a good life, I think it's a nice way to balance. And I just wonder, these video games are just so compelling. It's like if you could give these guys something that could rival these video games in terms of their engagement.
Yeah.
I feel like art can do that.
Yeah.
But it's not an obvious way to get into it. Unless you were already naturally that kid who was drawn into theater or whatnot.
Well, and I think there's some stigmas too. Especially in West Texas,
oh yeah.
When I started the LGBT club, I was really worried that it would take the limited boys that I had in theater
and pull them away.
Because they'd be afraid of being associated with with being gay if they were or weren't in a homophobic little town. So, and I see that in my husband. He's like, I would have done band and choir and theater and wouldn't have done sports, but everyone played sports.
I know. It's just like if you want to, if you're pursuing status as a young person in the United States, it's hard to, there are starting to be some cracks in that.
I think so.
I think honestly, like Instagram and social media in some ways are starting to create some cracks.
Sure.
That it is an outlet for creativity and artistry and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think that I think there's a missed opportunity. I think that I think this is both true for men and women. I just find that I think that men could stand to benefit even more. And I actually don't think you have to give up. You don't have to give up playing basketball.
No,
or
absolutely
lifting
not.
weights, if that's what you like to do, to complement it with the ukulele or
Sure.
with painting or with dance or some, what I mean, visual arts or something.
Any of it. Yeah.
And what's interesting is like those kind of muscles are you actually need those muscles in business.
I cannot think, I think the biggest thing that has helped me is doing speech and debate in high school.
I bet.
And what you get is you get an audience every Saturday for 2 hours listening to you talk every Saturday. And so how often do you get that regular forced, I'm going to go up and talk in front of people practice? I just don't think you do. And I think it's helped me tremendously.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I can see that. So last question, Kendall.
Okay.
What are you reading, watching, or listening to that really stands out? It's not just good, but it's really good.
Right now I'm listening to, I'm reading an audiobook called Lion. It's that book about the kid that was lost in India and got adopted by these Australian parents and then goes back on this search to find his home.
Okay.
And I just like the human element of it and all the different relationships. It's really good.
It's really compelling.
Listening?
Music?
I don't know. I just watched A Star Is Born, and I'm still trying to decide how I feel about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was expecting to love it, and I didn't love it. Yeah.
Is it? I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I want to see it. I think I'm going to like it. I love Lady Gaga, as you know.
I love Gaga. Yeah.
I do a Lady Gaga case, as you know. I'll be damned. How is it that Bradley Cooper is so good at everything?
I mean, he was fantastic. His voice was really good. I just think he's a good worker.
He just has to be. He has to be a total pro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just painful. Someone's like that good looking and
can sing and can act
and
direct.
Dance.
I don't know. We haven't seen him dance yet.
Oh, he's in Silver Lining Playbook, right?
Oh, that's right. He does dance in that.
See?
Man.
Any case.
Triple threat.
So I haven't seen it. So let me guess.
Why I didn't like it.
Let me guess why you didn't like it. Is that it was a little too pie in the sky. It was a little too kind of Hollywoody, happy ending-ish.
No.
Okay, all right. That was my guess.
I hate self-destructive stories. And this was just like...
Have to be saved. This person has to be saved.
Yeah. And I was not expecting that, I think.
I see.
I wanted it to be Hollywood.
The scrappy upstart who just needed a break.
Yeah, and just gets her start, and she's so good. And then at the end, maybe she's having to decide if she wants to be this new concocted version of herself or her true artistic. I would love that, but it wasn't. It was more just. It was kind of dark.
Got it. I see.
Yeah.
So, have you seen Bohemian Rhapsody?
Yeah, I have. I loved it.
Okay, so tell me. So that movie got mixed reviews.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I was eager to see. I watched it.
You watched it? Okay.
Yeah, I watched it. So I'm curious what your thought about Bohemian Rhapsody was.
Maybe I liked it better for that reason, because you see his downward journey. Mm-hmm. And yet you see how he fights to the end and has this like courageous finish and gets back with the band and
asks for forgiveness.
And there's some redemption to it. Mm-hmm. And then I love the, like, looking at creations of the scene where they are making the song in the studio and just seeing what that looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, what Hollywood says it looks like. I love that, and seeing the creative genius at work.
Yeah.
And I liked that he was also just not traditional.
Oh, yeah.
He was just a weirdo, and I loved that.
And and I think, I mean, if the story is accurate, kind of a lovely person, down kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think Queen is like a really special band. There is I don't know if it's PBS or BBC or something like that. There's this series about making the album. It's about like, making great classic albums kind of thing. And the episode for Queen is really, really fascinating.
Okay.
So one of the things that's fascinating about that band is, of course, Freddie Mercury is the ultimate frontman. Yeah. You know, in the style of James Brown and, you know,
Jimi
Hendrix, Beyond, you know what I mean? Like that just like has this gift and, you know, and so on. However, the band is surprisingly egalitarian. And it comes out a little bit in the movie, but not fully. Because the problem with Hollywood is you need a star, you know, but in, you know, one person, one genius kind of a thing. It alluded to this, right? Because Freddie Mercury goes off on his own and realizes he can't do it alone. He has to come back. Yeah. Well, part of the reason, and you see it in different scenes, is like everybody in that band made songs.
Which is cool. It's much more like the Beatles. Yeah.
Exactly. So everybody in the band wrote lyrics and made songs and so on. And it ended up essentially becoming very democratic in the sense of like, it's why their music sounds so completely different. Right. Because you have 4 different guys making 4 different styles of music. And then you take the best of those 4 styles and you put them on an album and you listen to this album. No one ever says every Queen song sounds the same. No. Because it's
and then you've got a great front man. And I think what I think is unique about them is that they're really liked by a broad range of people.
It's true. Yes, that's right. And in part because they have a little something for everyone.
Sure.
As a result of that. Yeah,
I love them.
Okay, I didn't mean to bring in something that I saw.
No, you're good.
But I thought, you know, it's like, it is fun to see the arcs of these, you know, they're fun stories. And then obviously one of the nice things about whether it be A Star Was Born or Bohemian Rhapsody is in many ways like a 2-hour-long music video. Yeah. Right? Like they really spend a lot of time playing the music and showing the band perform. And so in that way, the movie's always going to be good enough.
Yeah. Such a celebration of the music. Yeah, I loved it.
Good. That's great. Well, Kendall, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, of course.
You did well enough. I will give a third student a shot at some later date.
Yeah, you can always delete them, you know. If it's really bad, just delete it. Yeah.
No way. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit petermcgraw.org for more information about our guest, show notes, and social media links. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with others. Join Dr. Peter McGraw next week for